Welcome to the second coronavirus China update vlog for the 27th of March, Friday. As of yesterday, the most up-to-date figures for coronavirus infections in China are 55 total cases, one of which came from Zhejiang province, and the rest, 54, were all imported. So the biggest news from last night was that China is blocking all foreign nationals from entering the country, except if you are of the diplomatic service or key health workers and scientific research and exchange that's contributing to the fight against coronavirus. 90% of the returnees to China at the moment are Chinese nationals. But why are they doing it? So there's a lot of panic within China right now about what's going on abroad, particularly as so many Chinese students are studying in countries like the US, which are experiencing huge volumes of infection, and the UK. And if you think about it, back to when Wuhan first had its outbreak, we were looking at one country and being fearful of that. And now China is standing from the viewpoint of a country that is very rapidly clearing its own infections down to zero, at least that's what the statistics indicate, and seeing all of the rest of the world, not just one country or one province, Hubei province and Wuhan city, crippled by this pandemic. There's no faith that any of these democracies could do what China's tough measures did to turn things around in 8 weeks. And the reason that this new measure about blocking foreigners coming in is that the sheer panic of seeing how the West is coping and how people are reacting to it, the busy supermarkets where nobody's wearing a mask, British workers getting on tubes, shortage of masks in pharmacies and hospitals, crammed. It's all very unnerving, particularly when you are affluent and you have children in the UK, and not enough you feel like is being done, that you are asking your kids to go back to China. Now, these are the people that you want to calm as a government because they're the most affluent in your country. A lot of them probably work for the government. To calm the fears of that foreigners don't wear masks, foreigners aren't responsible enough, is to do something and bar that 10%. And obviously, statistically, that does very little. But in terms of perception of the way the world is collapsing around this pandemic right now, at least it's doing something. But then again, you know, you could have a super spreader, and I guess 10% is better than nothing. But let's just hope nobody super spreads anything, particularly as the big worry with the numbers coming out of China and actually everywhere. You know, people in the UK aren't being tested, much less tested, is the asymptomatic. So actually the way of recording in China is not registering the asymptomatic, and that's an issue around the world because they can then go on to infect other people. But what can you do? Tomorrow we will see what the effects are of the blockade. And also Xi Jinping today spoke to Trump on the phone about collaboration. I don't know whether they talked about the misuse of the word China virus or Wuhan virus. I mean, let's be honest, it's clearly not got anything to do. If Boris Johnson and the Prince can get it, this virus is internationally minded. Other big news in China is that I shouldn't laugh, is that Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, along with Matt Hancock, they have both got coronavirus, and a third person whom I can't remember who, but another kind of front page of Guanchazhe, which is an online current affairs website. Very zoomed in face of Boris.